Set sail for One Piece.
Let's go ahead and start our recordings, please.
All right, shoot, Audacity.
Whoops.
Yeah. Hmm?
I totally had that set up. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
I almost
Totally.
forgot to turn
We're
mine
ready to
on.
go. Absolutely. Oh wow. Okay. I love when I add extra digits to my stuff, but that's fine.
Love it too.
Right. So welcome to those that are currently lingering or not lingering, lurking. Gosh darn it. Appreciate you all being here. We're gonna get started here in just a minute. And video is gonna be up. No Vinny today for those of you that are curious. No Dorino. And everybody good?
Yep.
Yep. All right. Here we go. Intro by me. Not too long. You know, after last week's show, I thought I was going to be able to come on here and say, I'm back. And I'm doing again what I like to do, which is voice acting. But you know what? Life gets in the way. And that's fine. Because here's what I've come to terms with. Even though I'm on hiatus, let's say, I'm not done with this career. I'm still 100% looking forward into the future and making this a full-time gig in a couple years. And you know what? That's fine. I'm not racing against anybody to get to the finish line. The only person I'm racing is myself. And I think that's important for people to understand. You might start thinking, oh, I'm a failure, or here comes another bout of imposter syndrome. That's not it. We all have issues. Some medical, some mental, some combination of both. But you know what? It's fine. Pick it up later. There's always time. Just don't wait too long. Don't measure your progress or your success on somebody else's progress and success. Because that's just a pitfall. Just because a person is supposedly way more ahead of where you think you should be, that doesn't make you any less of a voice actor than anybody else. As long as you keep learning and improving, and then when you're ready, just get back on the horse. I heard Connor and I heard Dorino basically telling, just do it, just go for it. You know, make time. But everybody's lives is different, and that's okay. Does this mean I'm completely out of the game? No, not at all. I'm focusing on other things at the moment. I do have some projects going on. I want to start producing content again. I have live theater right now that I'm working with. So it's okay. I'm still learning to do things, even though I'm not in the booth. And I'm okay to share that experience with you, because that's the whole point of this podcast. This isn't about how to make it in the business. This isn't about what's the easiest path to get into it. No, this is my path. This is Buka's path. This is Dorino's path. 3 different ways of getting to where we want to get to. And you're in it for the ride. And with that, I want to hear yours. Where are you right now? Where are your goals aligning? What do you think you're missing? Because those are questions that you need to ask yourself. And we're more than happy to try to help you. So leave a comment, send us a message, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome everybody. Appreciate you all being here, whether you're watching us live, watching our video on YouTube, or listening to us anywhere where you get your podcast. Welcome to Cold Read the podcast for voice actors by voice actors. Quick little intro by me, just to give everybody kind of a heads up of where I'm at, and I'll get into my week here in just a second. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you want us to talk about, please feel free to send us an email, coldreadthepodcast@gmail.com, or join our Discord. We love to see new people coming in. We have a good network of people that can support you. If you want to ask any questions in regards to audio engineering, acting, working on a role, something, come on in. We also want to hear your audio. So if you have something you're working on, a demo reel, a particular voice and accent, drop it in our audio section and we will review it for you. We'll give you constructive feedback. And we've all done it to each other and we've grown because of it, and we're happy to include you in that. So, as I mentioned, go ahead and leave us a comment on anywhere that you're listening. We'd love to hear where you found us, or just say hi. We'd love to see you. And then, yeah, welcome to the show. Today we got Christopher Busch. Thank you here for being here. We've got a member of the Audio Anomaly. You do the 616 podcast, but I'll get to you in just a minute. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and check in everybody for weekly. And as you can see, if you're watching us, Dorino's not in today. And unfortunately, he had a last minute engagement that he forgot about and now completely remembered he had to do. We miss you still, Dorino. We hope that everything is good, and we will hopefully see you not next week, but the week after. All right. Buka, how was your week this week?
Pretty darn good. Making strides in the competition prep and performance prep for Sin City Anime. It is creeping ever closer. But it's gonna be awesome.
Good.
We had a Ren Fair here in Las Vegas over the weekend. I went yesterday and did my favorite things, which is to go see the bird show. Where it's this guy dressed as a pirate and he shows off all of his parrots and teaches people about conservation and why parrots are a terrible pet. Basically convincing everyone, do not keep a parrot for a pet. Here's why. You can look at mine, but don't do it.
No.
But it's a really cool show. The guy who runs it, he's been working on conservation efforts for parrots for the past decade, and it's fantastic to see him showing off all the birds. He does it outside. All of his birds free fly,
Oh,
and
wow.
they never leave home. So they're out in the open and they fly around the park while he's showing them off, and they all know how to come home. It's a whole thing that he does with the parrots, and it's beautiful, and I love it every year.
No.
I got this guy during during Ren Fair. I got a cute little dragon. His name is Sooty.
Kind of looks like a dragon hippo. It's very cute.
It does look like a little hippo. He's very cute.
Yeah.
I am he's a dragon hippodrogamus.
Hippodrogamus. I like that.
I like
Explain
that
that term. Yeah.
Hippodrogamus.
Copyright.
Yeah.
I am
Patenting.
I am in my pastel Zamudi costume.
I was about to ask. I love the hat. Bob has the hat now exclusively. It's behind me. I don't wear the hat anymore. Bob holds it for me. But
and then
yeah, go ahead.
I made this one myself.
Is that a candy corn hat?
It is a candy corn witch hat.
Oh my goodness.
Very spooky.
I love it. Are you still offering these things on your? Is it your...
Yep, I still take commissions. I stopped attempting to sell like things in bulk. It just takes too much time and it's not worth it. But I still do take commissions.
Cool.
Right now, my next project is making the eggs from some kind of Minecraft mod. So I made one already that wears like thick black rimmed glasses, and then I'm making another one that wears like a pink bow.
Nice.
So those are my upcoming commissions.
Cool. And remind me, when is the next con coming up in Sin City?
So Sin City Anime is from the November 3rd through the 5th, and it is at the Gold Coast Casino. It's gonna be awesome. We're running the competition, which lasts all weekend. Auditions and practice are Friday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
The competition itself is on Sunday. We have a pop-up workshop on Friday where people can come in and come up behind the mic. We'll do line-by-line recordings. It's awesome. And then on Saturday, we're doing Anime Live After Dark, which we're performing live, doing voice acting over various cartoons.
Yikes.
And anime. It's going to be so much fun.
I bet, but still, yikes.
Yeah. It's intimidating, but at the same time, I love it so much. Where some of the highlights are, why we were talking about One Piece earlier, because we're going to be doing some very infamous scenes or infamous, I don't know, scenes from One Piece, and it's going to be great. I'm so pumped.
Good, glad to hear it. Magmorta, hello. Thank you for joining us. Our favorite mod is here. Much appreciated. All right. Well, for me, like I mentioned, I'm still, having issues coming down here and getting stuff done. I do have a couple of projects. I've been asked to reprise Luke for the audio comic YouTube, so I'm gonna get to do those lines for the Heir of the Empire comic book pretty much immediately after this. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then after, for the most part, I know I owe Shadow Wolf a project. I'm trying to get coordinated with him for his YouTube channel. But other than that, I keep seeing the emails coming in from voices.com. I just have not had an opportunity really to get down there because it's just you have to jump on it when you get a chance. And work is just work. Unfortunately, you got to make the bills pay. You got to pay them bills. I did drive to Arizona 2 days ago. That's a 8-hour drive, which was fascinating. You guys have nothing when it comes to like sky to where you look at. You see a mountain every now and then. It's a nice drive. I hated going up the mountain because I come from San Diego side, so other than that, it's pretty smooth. It's pretty straight. We did like a 10-minute interview, and then we had to drive back. So it was a very interesting experience. But that did eat up a whole day. But yeah, hopefully we'll get into it soon, and hopefully today will spark a little bit more, and I'll get to do some more auditions. But we'll see how it goes. All right.
Fingers crossed for that.
I know. Yeah. So you go. I mean, I apologize, Christopher. We got your name from Dorino. It's in the bottom of your graphic. Would you rather I go by Funny Hatter? How would you like me to refer to you as?
Funny Hatter's my unprofessional name, so whenever I want to be silly, I prefer being unprofessional at times. So
Gotcha. Your graphic is very unique. Does it have kind of a slash inspiration, or is it just the best hat you could find?
okay, so funny story. I'll see if I can find the picture of it, but that's a drawing that I had a friend of mine draw of me.
Okay.
One day on Halloween, I didn't have a costume, so I just threw a bunch of stuff together, and it just ended up looking pretty much like a faceless Slash, an alternative version of Slash. And ever since, I just like the picture, and so I just went with the Funny Hatter. I guess people say I'm a funny guy. I guess. I don't know. I guess their taste in humor is pretty awful then, if that's the case.
Well, there you go. Before we get started on your journey on how you got to everything that you do, how was your week?
Pretty busy. So the thing is, besides me being a part-time voice actor,
Mhm.
I am currently working as an aquarist, um, and I'm also going to school at the same time.
Ooh.
So pretty much every other day is either a school day or it's a work day, and it's kind of, as you can probably guess, annoying to have whenever you want to work on voice acting projects, especially like I do.
Right.
And if you're doing your own podcast, I can imagine it's like, I want to do the fun stuff now. And it's like, I got to do the work stuff first.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, okay, so let's get started. How did you first get interest in voice acting as either a part of what you're doing or the podcasting in itself?
So the voice acting, I've always had, and I still do.
Hmm.
Have had a love for theater. I've always loved theater ever since I was little. Always been in theater classes, either like from like elementary, middle school, high school, and even college. My first go in college. This is my second go in college. Um, just my first few classes in my first semester of college, I was looking into seeing if I wanted to do more of theater
Hmm.
for a living or more of the marine biology route. Um, so it went to the latter, but I still do enjoy theater enough to where I want to be a part of it in some way. Now, I've always had aspirations or dreams of doing projects or doing skits, or when I always come up with like these little ideas that I've always wanted to do, but I could never figure out just how to actually bring those to life. And so I figured the best and cheapest way I could do it right now is through just voice alone. And so I
Hmm.
experimented with that. I have a few uh little audio dramas that I made on my YouTube channel, which I don't recommend you check it out. There's barely anything in there except memes and whatnot.
Okay.
Um, but I was inspired by what is it? I want to say I think he goes by the Minute Hour. It's been a while since I've seen this guy, but I thought he was so funny, because he comes up like with like his own audio skits, and some of them get like insane, and I just loved what he did. So I was inspired to do that. Tried see what I can come up with myself, and I came up with a few, but then I ended up just getting distracted. Either I was working too much, doing school too much, and I just kind of lost sight of that. And so
Mm.
after that happened, uh every once in a while I go on to just listen to podcasts and whatnot. And for the longest time, when I had respect for Kevin Smith at the time, I was listening to his podcast, and he said something that did touch me, and I still do respect, is like he said, you know what, podcasts are free. It's not like a news channel or anything. It's not like a big studio. Like, you got a microphone, you want to say something, go right ahead. Go do it. You want to talk about something specific that you like? Go ahead and do it. Nobody's stopping you. You can put it on the internet. Everybody can do it now. Everyone's an audio engineer these days. And so I figured, okay, just go do it. I always wanted to have a podcast, but I couldn't figure out what subject. And so when I ended up meeting the folks in Audio Anomaly,
Mhm.
which I'll talk more about in a minute,
Sure.
they were doing a lot of more Marvel audio dramas, and I liked what they heard. I wanted to be a part of it. I ended up getting in some of their projects, and then I figured, you know what? Now is the best time than ever. Start a podcast. So what are we gonna do? Well, we do a lot of Marvel stuff, so why not just do Marvel? It's like, okay, we're just making a Marvel podcast.
Yeah.
The end.
There you go. Well,
And
very.
so
Yeah.
ever since, I just started coming up with ideas and just talk more Marvel. And I love talking about Marvel. I love talking about comic books and whatnot. So I just figured, just run with it and just make it a hobby.
Cool. Okay. Well, let me get there in just a moment. I always ask the same question because everybody's always curious. What gear did you first get when you started to do voice acting?
Aha. So I can't find the microphone right now, but uh, it's a very small microphone, like meant for just very simple, like phone calls, basically like on Zoom or Skype. I want to say
Mhm.
like an M110. It's got like a long and tedious number name,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like one of those small ones that you just put on your desk and you just talk into it if you're ever like on a phone call. But then for Christmas, and this is the one I'm currently using right now, is a Blue Yeti,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which it's worked wonders for me. Um, and just by the way that I just play around with it and experiment with it. So that's the main one that I use. Whenever I get lazy, I use this other one. I can't remember the name of it right now. I don't have it like in my little shit excuse for a recording booth. But it's one of those smaller ones that changes colors. That's
Oh, nice.
if I'm feeling lazy and if I just want to play video games online with people.
Mhm.
So the Blue Yeti is when I want to be sure that people are actually listening and they can hear me as much as possible. So that's the one that I like to use, especially for projects and more professional scenarios.
Is it kind of the pill one, or is it kind of the snowball one, or which one are we talking about?
It's the pill one. It's not
Okay.
that fancy.
No, it's perfectly fine. You know what? Surprisingly, it sounds great. I know people love to knock down when it comes to USB mics, but I mean, if you set it just right and you have the right background and room treatment, they sound perfectly fine.
Oh yeah, I'm like super. I don't want to say cheap or lazy, but I'm very resourceful, I guess, because what I'm doing is I have like a bedrobe that I never use. So I just hung it up on my closet and I just covered the microphone, and it's just to make sure that it's not causing so much like an echo whenever I
Right.
go to speak.
Nice. And there's room treatment for you, ladies and gents. So, and
Mhm.
any in between. Very cool. So, okay, so you got into some of the work that Audio Anomaly was doing. How did you find them, or how did they find you?
So I went on to casting calls. So that should be like a very common way to like find roles or like put
Mhm.
on roles. That's actually how I ended up finding El Doreno. Because I one day just went on there. I'm like saying, "Hey, I need an editor for my podcast. I'll pay you," and whatnot. And like almost like an hour, he's like, "Hey, I do stuff. Look at the stuff I've made. I would like money, please." I'm like, "Okay, I'll give you money."
You know,
And so
knowing him, I'm sure that's exactly how the conversation went, word for word.
Absolutely.
quote for quote. Um, so yeah, match made in heaven. So I just went on to casting call one day because I was recommended to, and I didn't find Audio Anomaly first. I actually found a group called Everest Productions. He does have his own YouTube page there. If you like Star Wars stuff,
Mhm.
he does a lot of Star Wars. Um, and he was doing. This is the one that I mean. I took a few other projects before, but they're like very small stuff, like to where I'm just like a background character.
Right.
But this one is like Star Wars revitalized, and he wasn't exactly happy, let's say, with the sequel trilogy of Star Wars that Disney had produced. And
Aha.
so he decided to go like on Gary's mod and like recreate a new story of how he thinks that Star Wars could have been better if it was written in a different direction. And so I ended up getting I was casted as Finn for that version of Star Wars. And so I did all two because we didn't do The Force Awakens. We just did Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Uh-huh.
But as I ventured through more of casting call, I ended up finding an Iron Man project. It was an audio drama that Audio Anomaly was doing, and I auditioned for both Rhodey
Okay.
and Happy Hogan,
Mhm.
and I got both.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was really excited to really work around my acting chops and be more serious in one role and be a bit more goofy. And that also led off into another Iron Man. It was a sequel to that Iron Man project. So I did both again. I don't think I sound that great when it comes to. I don't. When I say great, I say like to make it sound different from one each other in hindsight.
Mhm.
But the privilege and the opportunity to come on and to work on something that I really like, being Iron Man,
Yeah.
it was a great experience, and I love working with Audio Anomaly. And ever since then, um, we just been doing more projects together. I said, "Hey, I've always wanted to do a podcast. You guys want to join in?" Like, yeah, sure. And so, well, like, just people in the Discord server of Audio Anomaly just came in. And every once in a while, they'd come in and just join the show, and we just talk about whatever subject that I just put on the board.
Yeah.
And ever since then, that's been history.
Nice. So this is the 616th podcast, correct?
Yeah, this is. So I wasn't being serious when I made the name. It's the Happy 616th Marvel Family Podcast.
Ah, there we go.
But because we were kind of just dicking around because we hadn't come up with a name on the first episode that we recorded, so we were trying to like think of like names, and so I just went with something really ridiculous, and then everybody stupidly said, "You know, that sounds like a great name, so let's go with it." Nobody stopped me. That was the problem. I'm George Lucas, and I'm surrounded by yes men.
It kind of sounds like one of those, Super Friends, the old 70s type of things. It's like, the Marvel Superhero Hour, and here you go. Now you got this podcast. It sounds awesome.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because the family part is supposed to be a reference to the Fantastic Four being that they're the first Marvel family. That's why I'm like, throw in Fantastic Four 616. I don't know, maybe Hulk in there somewhere. I don't know. Just throw in a bunch of shit and then we'll see what comes out.
Spaghetti on the wall method. It works every
Exactly.
time.
Yes. Oh,
Take the spaghetti, toss it everywhere.
How long have you been doing the podcast?
I'd say almost probably 2 years now. Wow, geez.
Sorry.
Because we just recently got done recording our 38th episode. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we're going to be recording this Saturday for our Werewolf by Night review of the movie that's on Disney Plus. And yeah, that's just how many we've been doing.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, generally, are you talking about like shows that are in production, or are you just picking topics, or generally? So you come up with the idea. Where do the ideas come from?
I just think of stuff at the top of my head. Sometimes I'm like, throughout my week, I'm thinking of like something Marvel related. It's like, oh, I was thinking about Spider-Man, so let's talk about something about Spider-Man. Or, ooh, I saw this fun fact about like Stan Lee. I was like, oh, let's talk about this fun fact. or something of my childhood. Like, for example, when I was in middle school, like the Marvel comic books that were mostly around were like Hulk, Spider Girl, and the Runaways. And I'm thinking, oh, that's nostalgic. Let's just talk about it.
Nice.
And so I just choose stuff at random. Sometimes if like it relates to like a topic, I'll try to like shoot for it. Like for example, the Werewolf by Night review that we're gonna be doing soon. It's gonna be on Halloween, so I just wanted to shoot for an episode that's coming out on Halloween that's Halloween themed.
Nice.
But yeah, most of the time it's just like random stuff that I'm coming up with to see like what sticks. But since we don't really have that big of an audience, I don't exactly have a big idea on what people do like and what people don't like. So I'm just kind of just spitballing every time I make a schedule until I get like people demanding like, we want more Moon Knight or Mr. Fantastic. So until I hear those rants outside my door and I think, God damn it, okay, fine, more Spider-Man then. As much as I hate to prove Sony right, I'm just gonna start making up subjects for us to talk about, and if people are more than happy to talk about it, then just go along with it.
Cool. I mean, it's such a great concept. I mean, just to be able to put all that out there. I mean, I'm sure you're having a ton of fun.
Oh yeah, we have so much fun in there. Kind of like this podcast, like I don't censor anything except for one word,
Okay.
and that's hand holding, just because I don't like
Huh.
it. It has no relevance to anything. It doesn't really mean anything. I just thought it'd be funny one day just to censor because we come up with like we say like this whole bunch of like vulgar grammar like on the show, and I thought it'd just be funny. It's like censor the one thing that's like the most wholesome. So
Well,
that's
yeah. And
that's
then
been
what Disney loves to do with people too when it comes to story time is just they have to the whole just oh hey, the censor not came over here, so you can't say that here anymore now, so there you go.
Yep. You can't say that anymore. Not allowed. Whenever I'm around, it's kind of like a presence thing. Like, if like a god comes onto like Earth and like their physical presence causes like a storm or something. That's what happens when I'm around. You just can't say a specific word.
Gotcha. I like that. So and now you're spinning off, well, not spinning off, but you're doing more for Audio Anomaly. You're looking to do what you initially started doing, right?
Yes. So there was a project that I always, not always, but like there was ever since I saw, what is it, X-Men 2 and X-Men Apocalypse. I've always been fascinated with the idea of Weapon X and like explore a bit more of Wolverine's origin story of how a superpowered individual was kidnapped to be a super weapon. I just found that fascinating. I just feel like that's not like taken advantage of enough or correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I just gravitate towards Wolverine's suffering for some reason. Maybe it's just because I'm a sadist. I don't know. But ever since I saw those movies and I learned more about Weapon X and I started reading more about the comic books, I'm like, this is perfect
Right.
for a horror story. Because
Oh.
like whenever you like read the comics, like of course there's elements of horror in there. There's elements of terror, but like the way that the movies portray it, it's more kind of like action. Just because Wolverine's more of like an action-packed character most of the time whenever he's on screen, especially like in his own movies. But I really like the idea of that being like its specific, like its own flavor of horror. So I wanted to dive more into the idea of that and get more perspectives on it. And ever since I came up with the idea, what if Weapon X was told in four different multiple perspectives, but I decided to just ground it down to like four perspectives from Wolverine, Stryker, a random soldier, and a random scientist. How would these people react to that? And how can I turn this into a horror story?
Mm.
And so I've been like, this idea had like this like kept popping up back in my mind like an annoying zit on my face. It just keeps popping back up for some reason. And so I figured, you know what, just create it. Well, how do I do that? Like, well, right now I can just put a whole bunch of voices together and not pay them to do it because I'm poor. And then I found people silly enough to fall for that, and they're like, "Okay, let's do that." And so I found a cast. I wrote the script, and I split it up into different parts. And the first episode's available on Audio Anomaly right now. And it's just
Oh,
the part
nice.
to where
That's
Logan gets kidnapped, and then we're gonna go a bit more into Alkali Lake. Um, where we're currently working on editing the second episode right now. Like all the voices are in right now, but um, I decided to write the first 4 parts of chapter 1,
Hmm.
and then we kind of just set sail after we got everything done for part 1, and so now I'm going for it.
Wow. And just like Dorino says, just start writing and then go from there. And it sounds like you definitely did it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so. Is it just like I'm assuming? I mean, obviously you have your main 4. How big of a cast are do you have? Just the 4, or you have more people in there?
I definitely have more people in there. There's other characters I may want to incorporate in there because this is going to take place in like the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So already I have my 4 main characters that will have their own direction
Mm-hmm.
for each episode. So like Wolverine will have a turn in one episode to where he's the main character, and then the next episode will be like the soldier's perspective to where he's the main character, and then the scientist, and then the striker, and then rinse and repeat.
Cool.
Uh, so I have everybody casted for that. I have other characters such as Sabretooth, Agent Zero. I don't know if I'm going to add more to him later or not, but Sabretooth is definitely going to be a big part of it. And I already have what I've envisioned for part 1
Mm-hmm.
set up and everything. I just need the voices for it. And then after we're all done with that, then I just proceed on to writing part 2. And then just continue on until there. I have a set idea of where it's going to start and
Mm-hmm.
where it's going to end. So it's not going to be like an ongoing series. It's going to be limited to make sure that I'm not trying to like stretch out the story too much. That you're getting like the general idea of the story, if especially if you already read the story from like the comic books,
Mm-hmm.
but also tell it just in a different perspective and perhaps genre.
I love it. I love it. Are you doing the mixing and everything yourself?
This next episode, I will be. The first one, I was lucky enough to have Audio Anomaly himself
Oh.
edit it for me, and he did a fantastic job. I love it. Um, and I was so happy of just like how it came out and just how it sounded. And there's something very, very special about hearing what you wrote yourself and then it's coming to life in some form to where you can just at the very least hear it.
I
And
bet.
it made me such a happy little boy back in Christmas. Let me tell you, Santa Claus never coming down but always believing is there somewhere.
How did you put the cast together? Is it just people that like you approach and are like, "Hey, I'd love you to try this," or did you put out a CCC?
I did put out a CCC, but I also
Ah,
did talk to people in the Audio Anomaly Discord because there's a lot of people in that server to where they're coming up with stuff. Just recently, someone, I don't know if they want me naming them or not, but we recently, Audio Anomaly recently released a Jessica Jones project,
ooh,
um, and I thought it was great. And there's definitely going to be more to come from that series, but like just everybody is encouraged to come up with an idea to work on a character and even just come up with other stories. Even like if you like just because you like choose like one character, like say like one person's working on Spider-Man, that doesn't mean you can only work on Spider-Man.
hmm,
um Audio Anomaly encourages everybody to work on something that they feel passionate about. Like for me, for example, I have ideas for like Captain Marvel projects that I think could work in the universe that we set up for this Avengers uh, riddled set of stories.
okay.
And if it gets shot down, it gets shot down. That's okay. But if like it's encouraged to be written by somebody else or it's somebody to work on it, that's great. That's great. We recently decided to look more into what if series to see if like anybody, just see how imaginative and how creative people can get with what ifs. And like, for example, I decided to throw my 2 cents in and have an idea. If I see this anywhere else, I'm going to be very upset. I'm actually going to get my own Twitter account and I'm going to be very angry and write a very angry post about how angry I am. I'm not going to do anything else besides sit and moan and bitch about it. So this idea, like for a what if scenario, is centered around Namor the Submariner of what if Atlantis made a treaty with the United States of America back in World War II, and how that would go on to like the 2000s, like from 40s all the way to the 2000s. What would that look like? And just because of these treaties, would these events that we would see throughout like Vietnam or the Cold War, would they still happen? And in my interpretation of it, they would, but just in a different way. It's kind of like with like that time travel thing. Like, if you ever seen was it Men in Black 3, where like the time traveling alien, or like he can like see like different like universes or like different outcomes or like different timelines. He says, where there is death, there will always be death. And I really like that idea. And like I recently studied a lot into, because it was required of me in college to read more into the Vietnam War and the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
And since I have quite a bit of knowledge of that area, like, would those events still happen if played out differently? And that just blew my mind. And like, how would I incorporate this? Like, okay, I'll just have paranoia be like of like super weapons or like superpowers be in the form of superheroes. And like the Red Scare can be like take forms of like Russian themed superheroes or supervillains. Just to give people a better perspective on how those historical events could go down, or if they just play as simple metaphors for historical events.
Wow.
So yeah, just really the idea is to just get as creative as you can with these characters, especially if you feel that these characters are being done with an injustice of not living up to the full potential that they could be living up to, if that makes sense.
No, totally does. No, I get where you're going with this, and it's an awesome idea. So, I mean, these are all original stories that you guys are coming up with, and that's absolutely awesome.
Stories, not characters. I just want to clarify on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, original stories. Apologies. Okay. So I also noticed that you're involved with the Arizona Voice Acting Guild.
Indeed, I am.
How did that come about?
So, I want to say, yes, they came first when it came to practicing my craft in voice acting. So I was working with these guys before I ended up started going on to like casting call. I think they're the ones who told me like, hey, go on casting call if you want to look for like parts and if you eventually like want to get paid for it too. So funny story thing is, excuse me. So I went to, this is when AVAG, Arizona Voice Acting Guild, was every cast member or every person that's associated were all living in Arizona at the time. I went to Phoenix Comic Con back in the day before it became like Phoenix Fan Fest or whatever crap that is.
Okay.
And copyrights and stuff. Whole
Yeah.
nother story. Point is, I ended up going and I brought one of my friends who lives in Texas. And when we went over there, we wanted to check out the anime at, oh, was it? You just said it, but
Anime Live.
Anime Live After Dark.
Mhm.
So that was the first event I've ever seen them in. And now here's the thing. My friend and I were really bad at reading. So we saw the 18 plus and we assumed, oh, they're probably going to show like hentai or something like that. So, okay, why not go to it? It's like, okay, it's just the two of us. It's just us two dudes. Let's go watch some porn together. Just porn out. To our dismay, we found out there was no porn to be had. It was just extra cursing, which would not be encouraged to do in the daytime. It was still a fun event, and I purposely embarrassed myself because I just wanted to see uh how fun these people would be. They were
Yeah.
definitely fun. I definitely came off as super annoying at the time. However, they were mentioning like if you ever want to join in or if you want to practice your voice acting skills, come on down. We're at this Discord or we're doing like this. It was Skype at the time. Like coming over to this address at Skype. We'll come on over. We do free workshops, and then we can just practice from there and see what you're made of, and kind of just work with you on objective versus subjective voice
Okay.
acting.
Wow.
And I started to grow on some. I'm pretty sure that some of them don't like me still, but that's okay. I still get validation from at least one or two people in AVAG. But yeah, like, these guys are great. And they're still going on with the voice acting workshops. We've kind of evolved now into more editing scenes. So like it started. I'm sorry, I'm pruning on.
No, you're fine.
But it started off of like get a scene, mute the scene, and then play the scene, and then you speak into the microphone and voice the characters, kind of like how they do at Anime Live. And I know that that's like a really big event, like over in Japan, to where you just they play the scene and then you speak in the microphone to make sure that you're matching the voice flaps or the mouth flaps of the characters. And so that's what we were doing for the longest time. But I forgot who decided to change that, but now it's more pick a scene, edit the scene, put your voice in the scene, and then display it on this time at this day when everybody's meeting up, and then we'll just come in and critique you from there. And it definitely makes it a bit more time efficient. So we're not like having to like do so many like redos and everything. But it's I'd say it kind of has evolved from just voice acting to now how to voice act and edit videos and edit audio as well, and which I really do enjoy when I can do that as long as I'm not working, but work kind of takes up on that. But it has allowed me to observe a bit more of like what I'm doing with my voice, how I'm sounding, how I am projecting, how I'm performing most of all. Um, and
Wow.
that I really do enjoy a bit more from that approach when we're going into practicing our chops in uh, audio performances.
Wow. And this is just, I mean, I obviously, because you already said you part-time voice actor, you've got a job, and then you got this. It's how do you find the time?
So here's the thing: I've only been paid once as a voice actor. I don't, I can't find the project and like the person who has made the project, or has paid me for my voice.
Hmm.
I have yet to see the project actually come up yet.
That happens.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it happens. But that's like the only thing I've been paid for. I've just been treating voice acting as a hobby,
Hmm.
really. And then I just focus on work and especially school. So because this is, I treat this as a hobby, and this is in no way a job at the moment. I just treat it as such.
Yeah.
So whenever I get the time to voice act, or somebody says, "Hey, I think that you'd be great for this role. Would you mind reading or mind doing this part?" I'm like, "Yeah, just give me a week or two." And then the people that are casting me are very understanding about it. And then we kind of just go on from there.
Yeah.
If I was getting paid for this, it looked very different. But as I mentioned before, since I treat this as a hobby, I just act accordingly
Yeah.
to it as being a hobby.
And that's absolutely fair because you're doing it for the best reason to do it. You're doing it because you love doing it.
Right.
It's when
Yeah.
you add the pressure of how am I going to pay my bills if I don't get a gig, and this and that just starts you down a really dark path. So I commend you for it. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. I at one point I really did want this to be a career, but since there are so many people right now that are like looking for opportunities to get paid to voice characters,
Hmm.
whether or not they're original or very well known IPs, it's just there's so much competition. And
Oh yeah.
as much as I'd like to be it for it to be a career right now, it's just not realistic in the cards, especially since I decided to go back to school to get another degree
Hmm.
and also work along the lines of what I'm going to school for.
And most definitely, I hope what you want to do for a living, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like what I'm doing for work right now, it's like a step in the direction of where I want to go in life. And I love it. I really do. Um, but if I also had the chance to make voice acting, like say like a side gig,
Hmm.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
But I think it would just add more onto my plate than what I already have. Um, because I wouldn't be going to school unless I knew for a fact like so the whole point of me going to school is to make sure that I'm getting in um, a really high position because of a specific subject that I want to go into,
Hmm.
marine biology.
Yeah.
And so I have to devote a lot of focus towards that. If I didn't really care about that and I just said, you know what, I really like this job, I can live off it, and then I can also make voice acting as I get,
Hmm.
I'd probably go for that. But right now I have like something specific in mind. So I would just want to focus on that and
Yeah.
then just have fun on the side when I can.
You're building a foundation, and that's absolutely awesome because that's the way to
Exactly.
do it. That's the absolute way to do it. Um, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now, in either voice acting or just in general?
I see myself probably I should be done with college by
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
because a lot of credits like that I've already taken should be like helping me out with that. But even if they don't, I should be done by then, and I see myself getting closer to working. So specifically, I want to work in coral and phytoplankton.
Oh wow.
Um, so I do envision myself closer into that realm, like saying like either working on a coral farm or something relating to that, maybe like working in a university that surrounds that area. But I also still see myself continually doing my podcasts and also working on more projects of say audio anomaly. Whether or not I get paid to do that, I I don't really know
Yeah.
because I'm not very consistent as of right now with my own podcast because
Hmm.
even like when we were starting out, it's like a oh, check out this episode, and like the next episode comes out like 6 months later. Um, or I mean, I'm trying to be more consistent like right now, but
Hmm.
like I don't exactly have a good following to where I'd say like I have a very high audience. Like we have subscribers like on Audio Anomaly, but they're checking out more of like say like the audio dramas
Right.
rather than the podcast itself. So um who's to say maybe there will be a bigger audience if we do end up getting like paid for it, like say like on Patreon. That would be great, but it's not my main focus.
Gotcha.
um
Mm.
because at the end of the day, um when it comes to voice acting or just doing my podcast itself right now, it makes me happy because I enjoy doing it. And even if I don't end up getting paid for it in the future, and if I still do it, it's because I still love it.
Well, that is absolutely awesome. I mean, and it's good that you're able to see that because it's always important just to be able to envision it because that's what puts you on the right path for it.
Mhm.
Very very cool. Um, what advice? Okay, if you were able to go back to the very start of when you first started doing the voice acting stuff, what advice would you give yourself?
Uh, really, excuse me. Um, really think about if this is a path you want to go down to for a career. If this is, then devote everything you can to it. Have fun,
Hmm.
but know that this is going to be a difficult path because of how many people are invested in this line of career. Um, besides, I would also say look for a lot of friends. Look for a lot of friends who love working on stuff, whether it's editing, on audio, video, or if they're voice actors as well. Look for a lot of people that are in this community of voice acting.
Hmm.
Um, definitely go to as many conventions or events that have a lot of voice actors, and not just voice actors as well, but also study a lot into theater
Mm-hmm.
itself. Because when it comes to voice acting, of course, your voice is all you got, so you got to make it as dramatic as possible. So just learn as much as you can about theater, and not just from classes, but also from, and not just from professionals as well, but performers in general. Because each perspective that you get from everybody that you talk to who has a love for theater
Mm-hmm.
is going to help you build your own craft. What makes you comfortable, what you're not comfortable with, what you can improve on, how you can be better as an actor in general.
Oops, sorry, my dogs are going nuts.
It's okay. I have dogs too, but just really invest your time if this is something that you really, really want, and just be realistic about it.
I
Because
like that last part. Being realistic about it is a really, really good point, because everybody thinks, hey, I'm going to get discovered. I'm just jump in. All this money. No, no, no.
well, yeah, it's like there's like a whole bunch of kids that I'm seeing nowadays that are like saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna be like, I don't know, like Mr. Beast or like Markiplier and whatnot." It's like, well, the thing is like they were around first
Mm-hmm.
for the longest time to when YouTube started out. This happened almost by coincidence. They just kept going at it and they built an audience over time. This is not going to happen over time if you're doing the same stuff as, I don't know, Logan or Jake Paul do, because, well, they're the ones that are doing what they're doing. If you
Mm-hmm.
just copy that, like, why is anybody going to watch you?
Right.
So you really got to you got to build on your own foundation and seek out what makes you unique. When it comes to voice acting, that can either come in the form of being like typecast if you're really good at like specific voice,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're like, I don't know, like Andy Serkis, to where he's like a man of a million faces, or in this case, a man of a million movements. You got to find what makes you stick out, and you have to recognize it as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, and I mean, you mentioned that Andy Circus, and that's just like you think about everything that's gone through, and just it's just, it's such a good point. It is okay. That's a good point. Who was your inspiration? Do you have a particular person that you can look back and say that's the inspiration for voice acting?
I don't know. I'd say probably just a collection of voice actors. 'Cause I think I just really like the craft of it more than I like the actors. Because like when it comes to like say like stage acting or like acting in movies, that's like easy because you have like Gary Oldman who
Mm-hmm.
can like
Oh,
just change on a whim like that, especially when it comes to voice. But like just the actual act itself, I think I just idolize that more than I'd say performers. Because I can't really think of any voice actor that comes to mind that really stuck out to me when I was younger. Like I can voice a lot, like I can mention a lot more people now, but like back then, it's just like, I don't know, like playing video games and seeing like how dramatic a character sounds, like say like Batman, and like the characters that he interacts with,
mm-hmm.
how they make that come to life. I was really more focused on how that sounded rather than just like say like, oh, Kevin Conroy got me into doing superheroes because he played Batman, or I don't know, like Tom Kenny with SpongeBob, but he's also the Squanch on Rick and Morty, or Clancy Brown is Mr. Krabs, but he's also like a whole bunch of people that's in everything that you've ever seen.
It's funny because
So
every time I see him, I do say, "Oh, it's Mr. Krabs." Just
yeah, exactly.
yeah, he was recently in. I think it was Ahsoka. Wasn't he for like a few?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, he
Okay,
was.
so that's what I was like. But yeah, that's absolutely awesome. I was thinking also like, gosh, I can never say his last name. Ross Marquand, who's also like a vocal gymnast. He took over the Red Skull role when Hugo Weaving didn't want to come back for
Yeah.
Infinity Stone. It's just he does The Walking Dead and all this other stuff. A true jack of all trades when it comes to, and it's so nice to see that. But yeah, I mean, I as you can tell, I mean, I'm also kind of a connoisseur when it comes to the Marvel stuff. I have pretty much watched everything that's out there, so you're in good company when it comes to this stuff. And we were talking before the show started. You know, you got the Loki stuff, and you got just even like Tara Strong as Miss Minutes, just to be able to see such a
Oh
strong
boy.
voice actor jump into these roles, it's so awesome.
Yeah, I think when I started doing more voice acting, I started researching more. I think that's when I started to like really recognize uh, a lot more voice actors for what they are, especially that's in like your childhood. Because you mentioned Tara Strong, right?
Hmm.
And like I used to watch Fairly Odd Parents all the time. Every once in a while, Powerpuff Girls come on. Never knew that that was the same person, and
Right.
and that's what really got me. Like I was saying, like that's why I idolized the craft more because there was so it's like for the longest time, I had no idea who the hell Elton John was, but I knew his music because he's like bouncing all over the place. And over the years, his voice changed. I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same guy? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, if you listen to it, it's the same guy. It's the same way he plays the piano. It's the same way that he sings and writes music. He's like, you just got to listen for it. And that is especially true when it comes to voice actors because, like, say, like, I can't think of his name right now, but like the guy who plays Cosmo in the Fairly Odd Parents, he's everywhere. He's everywhere in that show. He's playing Timmy's dad. He's playing Jorgen von Strangle. He's just everywhere. And if you ever seen Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, like as a kid, like me, he was the janitor. He was Gordy, the janitor. And like this guy is just everywhere on Nickelodeon. And it's like you never would have known unless you're paying attention. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I mean, because you have those little itty bitty, like it's not hints, but the cadence and everything else that pops up, and yeah, you start hearing. It's like, oh man, where have I heard this guy before? And it's such an awesome thing. And I mean, like you said, it's just like you start hearing your own stuff, or you start hearing yourself in it, and it's such a nice feeling just to be able to say, ha, I did that, I was part of that, and you know, it's absolutely awesome. What's your favorite role so far? That you would or let me ask you this: what would be, say, your dream role?
Huh. Well, I mean, I can list a few projects, but like a lot of them aren't out yet.
Right.
But I'd say I don't know. Something that would not force, but get me engaged to do multiple voices at once. Like say, like I don't know, like a character that's like say like in Split. Have you ever seen the movie Split with
Yeah,
James McAvoy, to where he's
absolutely.
playing, where he's what's the condition called?
It's
Split
now called
personality
DID,
disorder.
but it used to be
DID.
called multiple. Yeah.
Multiple
Um,
personalities. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. Um, to where you're doing multiple characters in just one body itself. I would like to do something like that to where I'm challenging myself to like sound as different as possible from the last voice that I'm doing. I can't think of any characters at the top of my head at the moment.
Hmm.
Um, but that's definitely something that I would like to do. And if you check out Audio Anomaly, or if you have checked out an Audio Anomaly, you'll notice that I play two roles in the Iron Man series, being Colonel James Rhodes and Happy Hogan.
Right.
Now, I've mentioned to these guys already, I don't think I do a good enough job to make the characters sound different enough. So that's something I want to work on in the future. So if I get like cast for like multiple characters, that's definitely something I want to challenge myself in to make
Hmm.
sure that I'm not sounding like myself as much as possible.
And yeah, challenging yourself. I mean, just for improvement's sake, that's awesome. It's awesome that you're still looking for that growth.
Mhm.
Yeah, very cool. A couple more minutes left before we have to go. I guess Dorino's not here, so I'm gonna have to ask Dorino's question, even though I'm not a fan of it. But here we go. Most important thing out of all of this: what is your favorite pizza topping?
Oh boy, you guys are gonna hate me for this. I'd say pineapples and black olives,
Yes, I am so down
sweet
for that.
and salty.
Absolutely. Buka is not happy from looking
Ugh,
at.
nope.
I never yuck somebody's yum. I've never yucked somebody's yum. I'm like, I will not shame anyone for what they like on their pizza. I just cannot relate.
Okay. Yeah, because
Oh,
your face was totally yuck, so that's why it's
Just
it,
trying to imagine both of those on the same thing. I just, yeah.
trust me, there
But
are
I
worse.
also don't like olives.
There are worse pizza toppings, and I have seen them before. This is not the worst thing in the world.
well,
Fair enough.
yeah, absolutely. Well, gosh, okay. I appreciate all the time that you've been on. It's super awesome to have you on the show. I could probably talk to you for another hour or so, but hey, we set a schedule for a reason. Yeah. Good luck to you. Hope to hear from you again in the future. Love to hear when you get some more of your projects out, Funny Hatter, because it's awesome. It's awesome to be able to put stuff on paper and then make it come alive. And I loved hearing your journey. And thanks again for the time that you've given us.
Well, thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, no problem. Just a reminder, if you guys have any questions, anything you want us to talk about, feel free to email us, cobrethepodcast@gmail.com, or you could join our Discord. Links are always going to be in the description. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to leave that comment, if you want to leave that like, those clicks are absolutely appreciated, and they do go a long way and help us to grow and keep our journey alive. So thank you for that. We do want to hear your audio. So if you have anything audio related that you can send us, again, if you're working on an accent, a character, a demo reel, anything, just drop it in the Discord. We'll talk about it on the show. We've done it a couple of times. We've done it to each other, and we've all improved because of it. So next week, we're going to have a free topic. We'll have to figure out what we're going to talk about, see what the hot button topic is. I saw a couple of our buddies starting to put out some videos again, so we may start looking at those. So we'll see how that goes. Dorino will do the next intro, although he will still be away and have his little picture up there of I'm assuming that's a mall or an arcade, which he chose. I'll have him explain when he comes back for our Halloween episode. But until then, on behalf of all of us here, I wish you guys have a great week, and we will talk to you all later. So bye-bye. And again, on behalf of Dorino, drink your water.
Drink your water.
Bye, everybody.
Drink the water now.
Microwaves. All right, recording has ended. Stream is going to end. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who was here. Thanks to the lurkers. Thank you, Frank Morta, for keeping the peace. We will talk to you all later.